John, are you guys hearing me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Hearing you fine.
Are you able to give me? All right, that's fine. I'll just. I see that you have the tickets up. So not a lot of updates, although I have been going through. There was a backlog of issues that were in my ready for my review, and so I've been dedicating some time before we go through the DXP upgrade, and so there are some updates there. Specifically, adding a field to identify the community by line office. I think that one we already have a field in the system that does have the line office in it, and we're grabbing that from LDAP. So I'll have to look at that ticket to see if there's something more that's necessary there. But we do have that information within VLCS, so that should help with that. I think John has been making some updates, coming up with a solution in terms of previewing as a user. From the issue there is that when someone's a community owner or administrator, you have permissions to see pretty much everything, and if you're setting up pages and things like that with particular permissions, that it may be that the permissions aren't set up right, so you don't necessarily know that things are working as a normal site member or a community member until someone notifies you or you have them test for you. So he's got a solution where you can go out and request an external account, a tester type account, and then you can then log in as that user that is just a normal user and test things out. And that's been very advantageous for, we've had a number of people who've used that solution, and it's been very helpful for them. So he's got some guidance that he's going to make available that should address that issue. So that's issue 32718. So the Liferay personal pages, that's on hold at the moment. We're going to roll that out after we roll out DXP, DXP Digital Experience. That's the next version of Liferay. That is the big project we're working on right now. The look and feel will be changing a bit, and we didn't want to. It made sense to delay that until after that. So that's the status of the personal pages. The DDL needs ability to be able to upload files directly from the computer. That's going to be fixed with DXP. That's one of the nice features of DXP. The dynamic data list, sort, filter, organize, that change, one of our developers put out a fix that will address this, and it worked for the most part. It actually worked, but there were a couple things missing, and so I've pushed it back to him and asked him to fix. They're pretty easy things to fix, but he's been deep in the DXP migration. So I may ask him to just come out for an hour or two and fix this issue so that we can get that rolled out to production, because that we did check in DXP and that capability, the ability to sort, filter, and organize the dynamic data list results is not there by default. So it's something that we'll want to, it's a custom change we'll need to move forward as well. The Liferay Redmine would benefit from a Liferay-like notification capability. That's something that we're looking at. There are a suite of plugins, and I'm going to be giving a short demo or outline of how we're dealing with plugins within Redmine. But one of the groups of plugins is called Easy Redmine. It does cost money. They actually do have a notification and chat capability, and those are two separate tickets that we have here. So that's something that, if we deemed it important and enough to actually pay for it, then we could potentially go with that solution. It would be quite time-consuming and probably not the best use of our resources to develop something like that in-house. So that's something we would have to evaluate. But anyway, so the notification capability is an option, but it's something that those particular plugins for Easy Redmine are not inexpensive. So, and then so that was issue 26866, and we've done nothing with the code syntax highlighting 19798. Chat feature is what I was just talking about. That's included in Easy Redmine as well. And the improvements to the My Communities page, I know we've made some improvements to that. I think that that one actually has some other changes. In fact, I know it does. So we haven't got to those yet. We'll have to get to those after DXP as well. So that's the second from the last under the on the impact score of 7. And the developing a portlet that shows all the issues assigned reported by you, that's something that has been done, but we'll roll that out as part of the personal pages. So again, we'll have to wait a little bit for that. And then I think I'll go ahead and stop that, other than provide Agile Scrum support, which is a 5/21/829. That's completed. We've rolled out a portlet, or I'm sorry, a plugin within Redmine called the Agile plugin, and that addresses that particular issue. So that's the top one under impact score of 5. So are there any questions for me? Okay, then I think we can move on. And I guess I get to do the review cycle. So
yeah, congratulations.
All right, very good. No, but then I'll be done. So, so I want to. John had asked if I could give a quick update on how we go about doing plugin reviews. So Redmine as well as VLCS both use a plugin type architecture. What that means is that we or others can develop plugins. As sometimes the plugins are developed by, for example, we're talking about Redmine here. So if they're developed by the Redmine developers, sometimes they're commercial groups that do the development, and there's a cost incurred for the plugins. But effectively, there are ways using the plugin architecture to extend the functionality or enhance the functionality of Redmine. We're focused on Redmine at the moment. And so one of the things, it's one of the benefits of Redmine is that it was designed in this way. So when we get a request for a new capability, oftentimes one of the first things we'll do before verifying that the capabilities aren't within the native application is to go out and search for solutions that have already been completed. And so there's a repository or a website of all the Redmine plugins, and so that's one of the first spots that we search. As is the case with open source software, and Redmine is open source, you have to be very careful about, so there are plugins that cover the gamut, and what I mean by that is that sometimes a single developer will go in and create a plugin, and it's their pet project for a short period of time, and then they make it available out there, and then there's no support after that point in time. So that's kind of one of the worst cases, is that you'll see solutions that look good, but the solution isn't being maintained. So what we do is we have to look to see, one, we have to look at the source code, look at how old the plugin is it going to work with our current version, what sort of community support is there if this is a free plugin, and then on the other hand, if it's a plugin that is available for purchase, what's the cost? Again, is it being maintained? Is it going to be, we still need access, and most of the programs give you access to the source code, and then and we look at it from that perspective. So once we've done that evaluation, we go in and we then install a copy of it. We've been doing our initial testing on a completely separate instance just to see if it works in general. So we've been using cloud versions of Redmine, and then I have like a personal version of Redmine, and a couple other the developers do as well, where we can do initial testing. If it looks good there, the next step is to pull it into our development instance. So we have a development instance of Redmine, which we synchronize with production periodically. And so that's going to give us a feel for, okay, is it going to work well within our environment? Are we going to see things that maybe we wouldn't in a standalone type version, where we don't have some other plugins installed and we don't have the large amount of data? You know, we have hundreds of projects now, so we have to be sensitive to that too. Is it designed in such a way that is it going to negatively impact Redmine as a whole? Is it going to require changes, you know, within the hundreds of projects? You know, is it designed well? So once, if a plugin gets to that point, one of the last things we do is we look at, or it's not one of the last, but one of the other things we do is we look at the architecture of the plugin itself. What sort of changes is it making on the system? Is that going to potentially be a problem when we need to go and upgrade Redmine to a newer version when that becomes available, either for security reasons or because the core Redmine system itself has been enhanced in some way? So, so we're looking at that too, because we want to make sure that we're not installing a plugin for maybe a small group of users that'll benefit a small group of users within Redmine. Is there a question? Okay, I thought I was hearing something. So, so we want to make sure we're not put in a position where we can't go and update Redmine to a newer version when it becomes available because we're waiting on an update of a plugin that we're dependent upon now. So those are some of the factors for us and what we do in terms of evaluating the plugins themselves. And we do a similar thing when it comes to VLCS plugins as well. So that has a plugin architecture too. And Garrett does too, actually. Garrett's the code review component. Jenkins does as well. So it's kind of a standard that's used across the board. The technologies are slightly different in each of those applications. Redmine's a Ruby on Rails application. VLCS LifeRay is a Java based framework. Jenkins is Java, and as well as Garrett is Java as well. So anyway, are there any questions for me?
This is Brian. I think I had asked to sort of bring this up to hear what you were doing with the plugins, to get a sense of if the VIT should be more involved with reviewing these plugins, or does this fall outside of that? And are you just kind of looking at different plugins as they become available?
So I think where the VIT should play a vital role is in helping us prioritize the requirements. So, for example, like what's been done in the past. So, if we get a request for like the chat capability within Redmine, basically the VIT and the process that we're using say, okay, yeah, that seems like a valid requirement. It has a priority, an impact score of 5 or an impact score of 7, or so that we can then look at all these different requests, because we're getting requests from different users. And I think anytime a user comes and says, yeah, how about this, we should be going to the VIT and saying, okay, this is a request that we're getting. You guys help us prioritize it in the grand scheme of things. And so, yeah, we had a request, and I don't believe we've gone through the VIT with this yet, and I think it should. We had a request from EMC with regard to they were looking at ways to do project management within VLab. And so I gave a presentation on that, and I can make that available to the VIT as a whole too. But one of the holes in functionality, or a lack of functionality in terms of doing project management, is that within Redmine it doesn't support resource management. And what I mean by that is the ability for people or managers to see how allocated users are within their projects. So you do have the ability within Redmine to assign tickets to users, and those users then the tickets themselves can have start dates and end dates, and the amount of time that it takes, or an estimated amount of time to do the work. But within Redmine, the native Redmine, you don't have a way of saying, oh, Ken this is his schedule, and right now, he's slated to do 40 hours of work on Monday. Well, that's clearly a red flag that I'm not going to get all that work done on that day, and that work needs to be distributed either to others, or the dates aren't realistic. And so there is a solution out there. It's the same company that developed Easy Redmine, but it's like 500 euros. They're a European company to get this plugin. And so I've been contacting the company to basically get cost estimates and then get a demo instance so that we could evaluate it. But that's something that the VIT should be providing feedback on, in terms of, okay, what's the impact score on this, so that we know how does that compare with the chat capability.
Okay, that makes sense, and that's perfect. I think I had seen some conversations separately about this document being forwarded to people, not just the VIT, and that's where I was getting a little bit concerned, where I wasn't sure why they were why just generally this was kind of sent out to community owners and stuff like that, where I'd rather have, like you're saying, the community owners coming if they have new requirements, and then we can refine based on that.
Yeah, I agree. That I think that would be a better process. So we're still working it out, but that's my vision. I think it's in line with the VIT. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions for Ken? All right, thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Some of you may or may not know I have left the SUE position at WFO Mobile, and now the MIC at Binghamton, New York. And in the interim, JJ Brost from Science Technology Services Division at Southern Region Headquarters will be stepping in, and I was going to turn it over to him briefly to describe the process that he's going to be using to kind of fill behind me as the Southern Region rep. Take it away, JJ.
He shows he's muted, although I don't see he's got a phone connection. Perhaps he's got a microphone.
Okay. He just Googled chat and made audio issue.
Ah.
He says, on the phone, I can hear you. All right. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to give him a few seconds. Yeah, it says he's connected to audio but muted. Weird.
I just sent him his audio pin. Perhaps that can be of some value. You hit pound, then the number 115, and then pound again to enter your pin.
Says he can't hear anything now.
Oh. That's not good.
But, and he can correct me later. I'll kind of jump in. And I have been in contact with JJ, and I just didn't want to botch it up. But I'll step in just to give a brief. What we discussed was he would step in, and he's going to the Hurricane Nate kind of got in the way of things, but he was going to have we're going to bring it up at the regional Sioux-Doe conference call and see if we can get any volunteers that way. We talked about as well, not just limiting it to the Sioux, but expanding it a little more. But until they find someone down there to fill behind me, JJ will be stepping in as the Southern Region VIT representative. That's the long and short of it. And I'm going to refrain from talking about taking, who are right now. We're kind of chatting about who's some potential candidates to take over the chair for the VIT. But it has been my honor and privilege to kind of serve you guys, and I'm sure we'll be chatting more later. But I want to turn it over to Brian now. But you got a couple of agenda items there, Brian.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I think the overall sense, Doug, is gonna, we'll get that resolved sooner rather than later, and figure that out and let everybody know. So the agenda-wise, the first is we want to make sure that everybody ranks issue 38282, which is our ideas marketplace improvement ideas. John has put that into a ticket, and we're asking that everybody take a look and provide their feedback on it. I understand that from maybe some of the other line offices, it may not specifically address anything that you may want, but we're still looking for the other line offices to provide input, because maybe down the road this would allow them to take advantage of it as well. And if there's any comments from the other line offices at any point about making use of it or the thought about it in general, feel free to forward that along. So I think that's it on what is the status there. You had given, I believe, until our October 24th meeting, right, to endorse or to rank it. So everybody has until the next meeting to take a look at that.
Right. Although sooner's better.
Sooner is always better. So for those who are on the call, feel free to take a look at it now and get it done while you're thinking about it. And then the next thing that you had under my name was the vote on changing the quorum definition, and I was wondering if you could pull the votes for us so far. Looks like everybody is voting for. including Alaska region, voted for, and so did Pacific region. Do we see that? Who? I must have missed the Pacific region vote.
Yeah, let's see. It might be here. Let's see if we can figure out who that was.
Did Eric send it in?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yes. Yeah, I remember seeing it.
Yeah, it was Eric. I don't see it here. Central region. No, I don't see it, but I think he may have responded somewhere else.
Okay.
But he did. We also
right.
got, just by way of update, Steve Mango has voted for as well. So we have Nesdis providing their input as well.
Correct. So it looks like we're getting that done. And we're supposed to provide input by today. So if there's anybody on the call, like Tammy or Southern Region, who wants to vote, final day, and we'll take the quorum, I think, if not. And it looks like we're going to head towards a 4 for that.
Yeah, this is Tammy. I haven't gone to the site, but I was going to write 4, if that matters for the purpose of this call.
No, it's good to hear.
Yep.
So John will note that, and looks like, again, we're going to head towards 4, and that just helps out Alaska and Pacific, I think. And that's all I have on that.
Okay. So it looks like we're the update on the strategic planning team. So at our last meeting, we got things really moving along, and since we were last together, I was asked if we would sort of begin to give them a home here in our virtual lab community. So I created a page as requested, and everybody can get to that page simply by going to our community and in the navigation bar, selecting strategic planning, and that will take you to this page here. And I initially just put a few things on there to sort of get them started, but I envisioned the team itself sort of fleshing the page out to their, to meet their needs. But I provided them a forum category, so strategic planning team forum category, and subscribe the current members to it so that they can begin communicating using the forum within our community. There's also some links that provide, take them to some sort of background material that help them get spun up quickly on. And then within our the document library, I created a folder for them to put any documents that they might want, and so they can easily access that from their page as well. And then another item which they might be finding interesting or want to reference are the candidate plugins, which not only the team but anyone else within the VIT can find by simply going as a submenu to strategic planning, and that will take them to the Google Doc, or with that we were just looking at with Ken's discussion. So the team members have been basically provided the material they need to get going, and I sent an email out back on the 5th of October to the team members, encouraging them and providing some guidance on sort of next steps. And I think we would expect to hear from them shortly as to when they might begin meeting as a team and get their work underway. Did I pretty much get everything that we needed to do by way of sort of getting them off to a good start? Anything else I can do to help in that area?
I think so, John and Doug. I was trying, there's no documents in the folder yet, but was wondering if we wanted to provide a little bit of a starter for the group. You mentioned define. I see in the email that you sent to them. Define how they will work as a team and review the action items. But I'd like to make a point to them that the goal is what you said, number 3, to develop a strategic vision for the VLab, and maybe say that the goal is here like a 2-page document or however long of a document. And I see you've got team background up there, but maybe an action that they need to fill is drafting the vision. So we said draft email, recruiting strategic plan lead, action items suggesting a charter, action items suggesting incorporating policy topics. The action item for the team is actually to develop the vision. Mm-hmm. That's what we're looking for from them.
Right. Okay. I can.
So we should probably just clarify that, and also, Bill, Jonathan, and Reed. Maybe what we want to do is schedule an initial call with them, create sort of a doodle poll to see, if they have any questions before they go off and do this.
Okay.
That would be my 2 suggestions. So I know you sent the email. I'd like to maybe suggest that we have a little brief call with them, you, myself, and hopefully maybe Steve Smith as well, and Doug.
Okay, and Doug, gotcha.
That would be my suggestion.
Wonderful.
And it was a good start to do. I mean, we did what we talked about last time.
Cool. All right.
Does that make sense, Doug, to you?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
And I guess we had hoped that maybe Bill would be here for our meeting today and he could give us an update on where he thought they were heading, but that will have to wait for a future meeting. And I think we should try real hard to make sure that we may have to adjust one of our team meetings to give him the, give him a window where he can actually be there, because I think we do want to hear from him at some point.
Yeah.
All righty. Any other topics that related to the strategic planning team? All right. So then I guess that takes us to a topic that I wanted to just quickly broach with folks, and that is, so we have, let me see if I can bring it up here under, you go to the VIT process and then awaiting processing. You'll see that there are a number of tickets that users, by and large, mostly Sues, have submitted, and these are awaiting your attention. So Brian has like 3 of them. David, who I guess he's not here today, he has 10. Doug and / his replacement have 6 or so. I have a couple. These are tickets that really need to be addressed by us, so we need to review them, make sure we understand them. If we don't understand them, then we can go back to the person who submitted the suggestion and find out some more information. And then once we've gotten it into good shape and we have a good clear picture of what the suggestion is, then we make the decision whether as a VIT member we're going to sort of embrace or to champion that particular suggestion. And assuming we do, then we raise it as a candidate so that we can then as a team review it and make sure that give everyone a chance to weigh in on it, type of thing. So I basically encourage everybody who has tickets with the status of new to go ahead, take a look at them between now and the next meeting, and begin to give them their due. Does anyone have?
John, this is Tammy.
Yes.
I missed the last meeting, but at the meeting before that, regarding the ticket that I have, you were going to do a poll of folks and get some information for me to get back to the requester.
Right.
Sounding familiar?
Oh yes, most definitely.
Okay.
That would certainly have come up during our action item review, but so that task was levied on me, and I have begun to think about it and did a couple looks around just to kind of get a sense of what I was in for. But I have not yet completed that work, and I do anticipate, though, that I'll have it resolved by the next meeting. So I'll have at least a list of candidate, basically forums, communities with forums that you and let's see, what was his name?
Eric.
Eric, yeah, you and Eric could kind of look at and maybe get some inspiration from. So yes,
okay, thank you.
Aware of it, working on it, and should have things wrapped up by our next meeting.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I don't let it fall off and that I hadn't missed something from you.
Nope, still in the works.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I will have mine two closed up, or at least in some way processed by the next meeting, and hopefully the rest of us can do likewise. And then the final item I just wanted to take just a very few seconds on is this came up at our last meeting, and for those of you who have been involved in our wiki, you know that it has a memory, and so that can cause sort of this bizarre behavior where you click on one thing and it actually shows you another thing. So I just wanted to quickly point out to folks that if you do go to the wiki, and one of the examples is you go here to the VIT process, and in that case you see, oh my gosh, this isn't the VIT process, this is our meeting minutes. How did that happen? Well, don't worry, you now have the ability to kind of get where you want to go, and that is right here in the upper right hand corner. Here are two tabs. One's called main, one's called meeting minutes, and the last place I was at was the meeting minutes, and even though I had told it to go to a page that supposedly was configured to show the main part, it didn't. But all I have to do is just click on the main tab, and that'll take me to what I actually wanted to see. So you only have two options. If what you see is not what you thought you were going to get, then just click on the other tab, and it'll take you to the place that you want it to go to. So I hope this makes it a little bit easier and more intuitive on how to find content within our community. Does anyone have any questions on that? All right, perfect.
I like it.
Sounds good.
It is easier. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. All righty. And then if there are no questions, then I'll jump into the open action item review. And that takes us to our minutes from last time. So we go back and just quickly, and this may be something John would be interested in, John Brost, is just what we still have on our plate to do, since he hasn't been to a meeting thus far. So the first open action item deals with our strategic planning team, and they have been charged with creating a charter. So hopefully that'll be one of the things that in some way they managed to satisfy. And then here's that basically the thing we were talking about a minute ago with Eric Rasmussen, and Tammy is working with him to basically satisfy some questions and some ideas he had. So we're all playing a role in that one. Still open, and hopefully we can get that wrapped up here pretty soon. We have the strategic planning team has also been asked to consider policy topics in their vision. So, just instead of functionality necessarily, things on how we might, do things and from a policy perspective. So we'll see if they can come up with some good ideas in that arena. Then now we're getting into the September timeframe. This is the one Tammy had mentioned. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is one Ken had mentioned where I was on the hook to create a document that will help community owners leverage external partner accounts so that they can see the community content the way their users would, and so that in doing so, that will allow us to close out this particular issue. And I have essentially sort of put together, I think, a good first draft. I will make that available for the VIT to review and provide feedback on, as we are accustomed to doing when we're about ready to close out one of our issues. And so expect that here before the end of the week for sure. Then we have an open action item. Basically, this is the one Ken was going to do, where he was going to add, I believe, all the National Weather Service VLab users to the National Weather Service organization. And I'm wondering, has that already been done, Ken, or is that still on the list of things to do?
No, we have. I'll have to update that logic.
Okay.
So, yeah, right now it's only those users that are assigned to a particular field office. Mm-hmm. They would fall under the NWS organization. But if we want, we can definitely, because it's hierarchical, but if we want to just have a default, so if your line office is NWS, just assign you to that, then we can definitely do that. So I think I missed that, so I'll make that change.
Oh, good, cool. There's a perfect reason for doing these reviews. All right.
But now have we addressed the issue where you can see who is subscribed to the VIT, to the Ideas Marketplace?
Again?
Yeah, that I was testing that. I ran into some other issues with that fix, and so I haven't been able to. I haven't been able to test it all the way through yet. I was waiting for an update from the developer.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But it's definitely on my plate.
All right. So then back at our September 12th meeting, as Tom mentioned, I volunteered to go out and look for good examples of folks using VLab forums. And I think this is primarily from sort of a look and feel, but something that seems to be successful, so that the same kind of features about that can be enrolled into some other community, in this case, to Eric's communities. So hopefully that'll get done by the next meeting for sure. And then we're in the process, as you heard during our meeting, of basically dealing with Doug's transition into Eastern Region and his departure from his role as chair. So I suspect perhaps by the next meeting we'll have that all wrapped up and maybe a new chair to welcome to our community. And then finally, we need to work with the strategic planning team to get them formalized and up and running. And so I've made some good progress in some of the basics, getting them integrated into the community, but we'll be doing some more work there. So I believe we'll leave this one open until they have their first meeting, and then we'll close it at that point. Any questions on our open action items? Okay. So I turn it back over to Doug.
All right, thanks, John. I think we have JJ back. Are you back with us? All right. Do you want to provide a follow-up to my botched explanation of how you're going to fill behind me?
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Doug, and thank you all for the opportunity to join your team. Really appreciate it. And really, I'm just going to basically just try and replace Doug and be the Southern Region representative. I'm going to get with Doug maybe next week when life is a little quieter for all of us, and have him walk me through the VLab page and explain some of the processes for voting on things and whatnot. Obviously, this call has been very enlightening and has helped a lot. He's going to walk me through that, and my intention is to participate on as many of these calls as I possibly can, and provide the votes when requested and help out with any of those documents you were mentioning. Obviously, you being new to this, I don't want to come in and disrupt anything too much, but just want to be present and help you out all as much as I can. So yeah, I'm excited, and I love the fact that this exists, and appreciate that you all are working hard to make VLab even better for the field. I guess we all now, huh?
Yeah. Any questions or comments for JJ? All right. Thanks, JJ, and thanks for stepping in and pinch hitting for me. Any other items from the VIT for the open forum? All right, hearing none. Any new action items there, John?
All righty. So I think I received two or heard two. The first one is I need to provide the strategic planning team with some general guidance on their goals, to include drafting the vision, the strategic vision that we envision coming out of their work. So we will do that, get that on their webpage within our community, so it's available to them. And then second action item for me is to set up an initial call with the strategic planning folks, and you know, basically sort of a meet and greet, and discuss their charter basically with Steve Smith, Doug, Brian, and myself, and then of course the rest of their team. So we'll get that done before the next meeting. Anything else that I may have missed? All righty.
All right. If there's last call for anything as part of the conference call. All right, hearing none, I'll let you get 10 minutes of your life back, and we will reconvene in 2 weeks at, let's see, I guess it'd still be at 1700 Zulu.
All right.
1 p.m. Eastern, 12 Central, and back it on up from there.
Sounds good.
So, all right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Doug, for being there.
Thanks, Doug.